have to wait to kind of food when you come.
Oh.
That is what I hear, that is the law in Canada. Come as it is in the world.
Leave me in the house, me and my daughter. Because my next 3 them they go away. Then they go away for the Saturday night. So the kids them, me and my boyfriend and my daughter there. And then we go by the next neighbor and fix the door. So we're inside. Me and I know inside. Just such hungry. So I say, when I go outside, come and I want no shot catch me. Same time, when the police them there, they're on the seaside, they never reach inside yet. When we there inside, she said she wants something to eat, so when I come out, when we wake up, we go outside and go around in the shop. And then we start to hear the bomb them drop. Them come through, our Tivoli and come in power. Shots start fire harder, and we went to the shop. And when I go around the shop now and I come back, the bomb exposed and catch me from the plane. Bust my face. When the bomb catch me and flip me out on the road, 2 youth dead beside of me. I'm in the road a batter. I never know myself. I start unconscious. And when I'm in the road, somebody will call my boyfriend and says, "Yeah, baby, man, I get the bomb catch already." And one next man come take me up and came on to a veranda. Because through me I bleed. I'm wearing a white t-shirt and a grey pants. My blood catch him and them trail the blood come right round to my house named Miss Marjorie. And he must say, "I want to call the police," but him free to call the police. And then when he kick off the door, he have my name on. And when he have my name on, them say, "You are in a bleed so long. Get up with the woman, you see she dead in that pie." He must say, "Me want to call him free." And then box him in the face and I drop out time on. And he say, "Take up the woman." And when he say, take me up, him take me up, I want to take me up and him kick him down and drop me again. And when him take me up and he must say, "He must come to the hospital with me." Them tell him to stay back. And when I was in the hospital, admit. But then at the hospital, I say everybody come look for me when the wall kind of cool down. I can't see him. I don't know. I whisper. So I say, I can't see Mickey come look for me. Then I say, "I'm alright." So I say, "I'm not alright." And when I'm sick in the hospital, I'm the first one always come look for me. Because I always did it for me. Me and the children, because I'm breadwinner that. And when I did it, one guy will work up a public hospital come up on the wall and make me know say my baby father dead, but I don't say nothing. When they tell me my baby father dead, I come off of the bed and they go jump through the window and they do suicide. And they hold me and give me an injection and put me for sleep. And when the doctor, when I come back to my sense, the doctor said to me, say, "Who tell me?" He must say, "Who say I tell this girl about her baby father dead?" Then I go fire the person, but don't tell them who tell me, because you don't want the person to lose them work. And them keep on asking me who tell me. I say, "I not tell them who tell me." I'm just there and I'm start to cry and so. And them give me a sleeping injection. I'm asleep and I wake up back again and know myself. Then I come out of the hospital. I spend 3 months in hospital. And when I come out of the hospital, I become like I was a vegetable. I never know myself, I was a vegetable. That's when I come from a world and I center here. My sister did what here. She used to bathe me, take care of me. I couldn't help myself because the way the bomb mashed me up. Right now, I can't use my hand for the rest of my life. I tell the truth, when I light up, I think I'm feeling it, I'm breadwinner, and then I never pin them and suffer. I'm care when I light up about it, because I'm more than 73 people dead. Because this when the people them are dead, all the sword of them all have vomit. And enough of the sword of them save the people, them, the boy pit them in the house. Because there's not no 73 people dead. Them all born and the people them body were paid body. Them, I want lady upstairs. I two so them come from one of them come from foreign. And when them see them carry them, go check them out. When the people them look, them say the two, the people that come and I need white sheet. Them do bad on the West Kids and them mash up our house, them talk about the whole of our money, enough money we lose. And therefore that was a hard working man. You used to work with the US Embassy. And when you're a thief and criminal, you can't work with them white people there. Because them stuck with them work. And one time I used to maybe for I was a working man, and me I cook the white man I would say, back off the stove and come up to and come have dinner with me. And them used to come in and store where I live. But maybe if I was a family man, maybe if I used to anger God and them kill him wicked, they put him against the wall and give him 7 shots in the head. And why not me can't pay a light bill? Me and some of my visit them, I'm never used to live like this. Me used to have a shop and I'm losing everything, but I'm done right now. I can't pay a light bill. And I mean myself light bill coming right now, coming to my yard. Sometimes I can't find food. Something must come out of this because I'll tell you still in my body. I sell a market and drop and lick on my head. My son will play football. If you got a private doctor, I can't pay the doctor bill. I'm a son to play the football. I've paid the doctor bill for me. Because if I never with my son, me that dead already. When they look so big pebbles that come out of my skin, we can kill me. We can poison my body and feel me can't work for the rest of my life. Because them not a lot of things them do. Them hide the things them for the people. Them don't tell the people the truth. Because enough good people live with my skin stone. It's not an animal and them angry like a dog and them don't treat me good. Because I will not go to my skin stone. Them always you don't us a bad name. And we come from a community, it's a good community. Because one time the man used to do it, he used to keep trees for the people saying at school. It's not a man where you can talk to. He was a good man for the community. We don't know if not killing all them things that used to go on in the skin stone now. A night to be a shot fire, police and so that be all last night before last night be a gunshot of fire. Police have run off people for the road and now go on our tariff. Right? Every time them fire shot and kill people, don't come out of it. It needs to stop. What if I tell them I go out with right now and nobody not stop because we don't have nobody for talk for right now. We come back with nobody. We come back with a dog. Them cheat to bag and them come and mash up our house. Them take out the fridge. Them take out the stove. I can something them do and mash up. Shit up our toilet seat. I can something them do it. We are human beings too. You understand? Because them not tell the truth what they do and what for people them kill. Them kill all the man them not separate and melt all them body in the acid. And burn all the people them body with peel the body. You work in them go with no same to treat people. Them carry all the people out of ease that the container, them body burn up. And what for people them kill. Innocent people pitney. You go up on this, you know, one house with all 10 man line up on one in a one house. What for people they pit them kill. But the two can't, them will have on the badge so we know the badge number. And I said them because when kill my baby father, I look 13 years old daughter, see when them kill my baby father. And them Nikita, my daughter, she said to him, so my father, she said, oh, the man police to put on some out of the father, and I want to go up and see him the road as a lie down. And backside her face, I put her and sit down in there. When we get down, she said, she come put an enquiry, come talk when she see them to her father. Because my baby father was a good man, I was my breadwinner that. Right now, I'm not about to take care of my people. If you have big people, I'm not supposed to do that. I'm supposed to live independent right now. That me I'm telling you. Not even one this.
Pleasant good evening. My name is Nadine Sutherland. In 2008, the 13th of January 2008, I lose a son down by Keith Avenue. When the police them come in and that day, remember, them said them stick him up and shut a fire. Them run going to one house, say them a look for wanted man from Andem. Joan Andem gang from. Some are back in Montego Bay. And them run, them ending up in a house. When my son died, only thing we could identify as just the sneakers on his foot when my mother came from England and a plaid shorts in Avon. At the age of 18-year-old just leave school. Every incident happened inside of Tivoli Gardens, I have to be somebody, for me, have to be a victim. I don't know why. And in 2010, when the police, the soldier them first come up because our house bill, it built back right to industrial terrace. When we go upstairs and I look through the window, we see them a come up. Only thing me could have do is just curse a bad word. I said, Jesus Christ, the whole of we in here go dead. When me run downstairs, my nephew O'Connor Brown come between my foot and say, my auntie, we are got dead. I said, Shelley, behave man. The two coward, just put your trust in God. Him turned to me and said, no, we are got dead. Nadine, me I got dead. My auntie, me I got dead. When the soldier them come up, pan the wall, jump the wall, come up, kick off the door. When them kick off the door, them say, who in here? Who the what's it not clad? Big P girl. Me first get out. I be a family live inside here. That I was about 14 of us inside. When my nephew back him ID and said, see it here, the whole of we are all working people. I work at National Water Commission, my auntie work at DYC Fishing Complex, and everyone of we are name out which part and which part to work. In box, one of the soldier man box my nephew and say, you first I got dead. Same time now, when him box him, I said to Silver, say, Silver, don't move. Just sit down right here so when anything make me do the talking. Him turn to me and him say, oh, you just a chat off your mouth, so big P girl. Me stop talk now, because I can't argue back with him. He juke me in my neck here so with the gun and say, girl, me I go kill you. Matter of fact, the whole of you join a line and go in a one room. Me go in, everyone I will go in a room, sit down on the bed, and throw off everything off of the dresser, cock up him foot, and say, oh, in a phone house one so pretty. I say, because our grandmother make us comfortable and then we come live independent, because we are all working people. I not depend on people for walk and beg, that's not me. But now it come to the test, I lose my job. As I lose a work, I try to get back one. I used to work at KPH, I lose that work. And now, there my yard sit down. Sometimes I can't find nothing. If my two nephews, them never dead, me could have called upon them and say, Hollanda, O'Connor, see you no nephew there. No, when I deal with one, if you deal with for me, because I don't know the situation and the crisis. I say, alright. When them come in at the house and them tell them, say them to run out. Two men upon the building, I watch them. When the soldier push them out, Sheldon running at the middle of the road and run go up Bustamante Highway and going to one of my friend's house and say, Raquel, them a kill off the whole of my family, them down there now. Raquel turned to him and say, Shelly, we can't open the door because the soldier them a watch me. If you come in here, them will come in and come kill off the whole of we too. Same time now, him go next door. When them go next door and the soldier them reach to in the house, they know. Them turn to him and say, where the boy that will run coming in at the white? When them run him, have him ID pin and pan him ID drop. At the time, when couple days after me pick up the ID, up till now I have the ID. Because that are my memory. Every time I remember about my nephew them to always live as a family person, tears always come on my eye. Look while I come in and I sit down right there, so. And I watch something on the computer. And the first thing I said to Marjorie, say, Marjorie, you know, in the house the Dan dead. And she turned to me and she said, yes, I'm just hold on my head and I start crying. Because my son never lived his life yet. Because at the age of 18, he never decide in mind and say, he might go work. For go mind my mother. Me always I go say, and my son I come bury me, and me live to see me bury my son at the age of 18 years old. My son are no gunman. None of my family them are no gunman. And all because what going on in West Kingston, somebody must be get the blame. You understand? Because as a young girl growing up in the community, I never see none of my family them with a weapon. Yet never. The only time me bless my eyes with 3 of my brother with a weapon because them joined the army. When I look at my brother, I said to my brother, say, why you have to go choose for going at the army? He said, no, my sister, no work, no day, so I have to go do it. I said, okay, well, that's your prerogative. He turned to me and he said to me, say, sis, there are many things for doing now, but I can't help out your situation right now. I said, alright, brother, don't watch no face. When last year, December, O'Connor mother called me, and she turned to me and she said to me, say, Nadine, I say, yes, Audrey. I say, what happened to you? She said, today is Shelly's birthday. I say, no bother cry, Audrey, do. I beg you, no bother cry. Because remember, say, you gone left them, and me grow them like my own. When O'Connor and Orlando died, I did big and fat. And see me here now. It come like a my belly pain. So you must know what I'm talking about. When the soldier killed O'Connor in the bathroom, he was begging for him life. Him get 2 shots straight in him back. Orlando, them have him take up all the dead them pan DC Avenue. When one of the soldiers said, me I go give you a chance, you know. But you know when me want give you a chance for clear up the carcass them. Them time that the people them I watch them pan the avenue. Cause them could have come out but me scared. Because through me no go certain way. Up to before we leave, gunshot a fire down there. So right now we are living in fear. When I say fear, I mean fear. Because the reason me afraid, me no used to out the door when night come as it touch 6 o'clock in my house. If you take book, read book, watch TV from now till tomorrow morning, that's me. Out the door could have tear down. That not have nothing to do with me. When them tell Orlando to do that now, and Orlando do whatsoever him do, one of the soldier man look for him and say, jump up in that. Your time now. Go and go rest with your friend them. And give him 2 shots in him back. In the evening, when them tell us to come out of the house, them tie we on behind we. My brother sick with him heart. And push him down on the ground, kick him up, turn to him and say, Ackley, just hold on for me and take time and come up. Them carry go put you in the middle of one building yard where the sun hot. Put you for sit down. Then them catch one house of fire. Throw my nephew in the van, catch him a fire. When me go identify him, me couldn't identify him. Because half him body burn off. How me identify him now? Me come out of the house, come out of Madden, and go to Oxford Street and see a lady named Carol White. And I say, Carol, come here. Come tell me if that person look like Shelly. She said, no, it don't look like Shelly. The man, one of the policemen in the morgue said to me, say, him have no scar upon him. I say, yeah, him have a scar upon him left foot, him have a space in him teeth. And him cut appendix and belly button. The man who work inside a mud now start searching out. When them tell me say him that, me say no, I can't my nephew look so. Part-time face. If I did remember, I would have walked with the picture for sure no. When him a bury, part-time face peel right off. You would believe says a human being. So when them a say 73 people dead at Tivoli, nothing like that. When them all, the 14-year-old one and the 21-year-old one and carry them go separate. For days, months, weeks, him couldn't eat. Him have to say, up till now when they are foreign, him said, my auntie, you know, say, I not eat meat back again in the life. I say, why Silver? Him said, to all me say, the soldier and the police, them throw the man them in the acid and them just melt off so. And then put them in a some, pack up some and carry and go dump a sea. So when them say 73 people die, not really 73 people die, it's 2,070 odd people die. So them put the figure where them feel like for put and hide the rest.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. All Lloyd, when they were approaching Tivoli Gardens, they're part of operations like that, and I know the atmosphere. I can only too vividly conceive the young soldier who believes he is trained for war, to kill, to annihilate the enemy, to stamp his authority, to show them how a soldier compares to a police in the business of killing. And it's an ongoing competition. You know. Soldiers like to think that they are better at killing than the police officers. And in Tivoli, I guess they got the opportunity to prove who really would have been the better at the art. For such a young soldier, the idea of war is all that occupies his adventurous mind. For him, it's an opportunity to demonstrate his art. He may never get another chance. After all, this isn't the Middle East, where wars are ongoing and real. If I can't find a war, I will make one, is what he contemplates. I can imagine as well the young cop who is prepared to show the soldier who is better at killing. After all, we're involved in shootouts daily, according to the statistics. Up to 600 times in 1 year. Did we hear that? 600 times in a year, the police say they have been in shootouts, and we don't have a war going on in this country. I can imagine the anger the police would have been feeling for the people of Tivoli Gardens, especially since Renato Adams and his many other mercenaries have found it necessary to attack this community with deadly accuracy and regularity. Ladies and gentlemen, I wasn't there, but I can recall that over 70 people were killed. And from what I'm hearing, it may well be twice that. Right. I want to focus a little bit on the practicality of this operation, and you may or may not come to the conclusion that I've come to. But this incursion was announced, so the people of Tivoli would have been in a position to occupy advantageous positions. They would have been able to be at strategic points with weapons and ammunition at their fingertips. They would have been protected by their barricades and buildings and secret tunnels. And I can well imagine that the advancing troops, the police and the army, would have been at a disadvantage. So in reality, when the shooting started, one would expect from all practicality that the advancing troops would have been suffering the most casualty. It's common sense. You're in a building, you're protected, you're prepared, you're ready for war. People are advancing, they're in the open most of the time, if not all the time. Yet, the casualties on the side of the police force and the army tells a completely different story, because they didn't suffer 70 casualties. With that kind of scenario confronting us, are we to believe that the reports from the JCF and the army, are they believable? Are they credible? What about the accounts of people like these two ladies? Who listens to them? Is it going to be the case where the police says one thing and that rests with the nation? This is what happens. And the people who were there, who suffered the trauma of seeing their family members, sons and nephews and baby fathers dying, are we not to believe them? Are we to throw their story out the window and say, well, this police says so? And this is something I've been trying to confront. From the day I joined the police force, I noticed that there's some inequity. There's something wrong with the way the stories are reported and the way the nation treats these reports. And when I say the nation, I mean the people as well. Potential victims. They too believe that once the police says something, then this is what is real. And the people are there just trying to rock the boat or, to be mischievous. But, ladies and gentlemen, we have to change that. What is even more disturbing is that after this operation, the commissioner found it prudent to say that, to congratulate the forces on a job well done. It's puzzling that he should say that, because the objective of the whole operation was to arrest DaCosta. That was the primary objective. And they failed. They didn't find him. So how could you say that the job was well done in the first place? It's not even done. But it's even worse that people are saying that the military and the police came here and they murdered our people. And you're still saying, even after hearing that the job was well done. It's almost a blatant disregard for human life. And it is disappointing. I cannot conceive that a commissioner should, look people in the eye, to look in the cameras and to say something as hideously cruel as that the job was well done and congratulating them when people are there with stories like these. it's disrespectful. It is an insult to the intelligence of people like you and I, and to the people of Tivoli Gardens. But the commissioner would have been, some people could argue that he was going by the reports he got from his men on the ground, and so based on what he heard, it was necessary for him to applaud his men. Again, I ask for this intellectual honesty. Mr. Ellington knows the kind of police force that he governs. He knows from early. He's one of those who went up to the ranks. He's not somebody like Colonel Macmillan who joined the police force when he was a retired person already. He knew the operation. He knows the frame of mind. He knows everything. The way I can sit here, and I guess I wouldn't have been on as much operations as he would have been on. But I had been on enough to know that the police will, at the drop of a hat, abuse their power once the cameras are not on them. And it turns out that even if the cameras are on them, it doesn't change things much anymore. As we saw on television when a man was in handcuffs on the ground and the police shot him, killed him, and got away. No. You know, the commissioner speaks about crime and the outrage of crime and the regularity with which we inflict harm to our people, as if it's separate from, we are a set of people who the police force are having a hell of a time to control, and we're uncontrollable. But how does it help the crime situation when people are denied justice, when people see their loved ones being shot on the ground on television and know that there will be no justice for them? How does that help his crime situation? You provoke people like that. You cause them to be angry at the state, and they will take matters into their own hands. They are human beings. So how does it help? Mr. Commissioner, it's I don't think I have much more to say, except that if we don't do something, it's obvious. No, it is becoming even more obvious that the government has no real interest in an inquiry. You remember when the man at Phelps issue came up within a year, I think, after the suggestion that it be brought to an inquiry. Within a year, I think the inquiry was soap opera on television. A very quick time. In this case, over 70 people are killed. Look at the difference. Here's a case where the Prime Minister may or may have acted irresponsibly, or criminal, let us say. But the country and the opposition at the time, the People's National Party, they were so strident, so consistent with their call for an inquiry. And quite rightly so. Where you smell anything like corruption or criminality, have an inquiry, get to the bottom of it. Nothing is wrong with that, I support that. But in a case where we have over 70 people allegedly killed by the security forces, that requires an even more speedy inquiry. Here is a situation where human lives are lost, and many people are, alleged to have been thrown in acid. People were killed, shot in their backs. It's just horror. It's a horror story. And both the opposition today, government then, and the government of the day, they're dragging their feet as if this is something we should put aside and get on with business of running a country. How can we sit and allow this to happen, ladies and gentlemen? I am appealing to you, Lloyd, I am commending you and Paul and the rest of you to continue this fight, this battle, to have these people, even to get them, to somebody to listen to their stories. Because I'm so pessimistic when it comes to this country and the justice system that I'm hardly expecting any good outcome. But I'm hoping that at least the world can get a chance to hear the testimonies from these people. The media wouldn't even allow them to speak like the way they're speaking here. No, I'm sure that if they were to go to one of the media houses and try to speak, from their hearts, to tell what they saw and what they experienced, when it's put on TV, it's going to be modified. Somebody's always looking out for somebody in this damn country. And it's a shame. The truth is hid. It's put under the rug. I am a former police officer, and I'm telling you that when I was served and the things I had to be a part of, I walked off the job disgusted. I saw when the man said he wouldn't eat meat, when I saw the killings, I witnessed it and saw the blood and the mayhem and the dead bodies. I too felt like vegetable. In a way, I was traumatized. How can we sit here and allow these things to happen? Thank you very much. when you join an organization such as the JCF or the military, and you're perceived as one who is not strong mentally to deal with what they view as part of the job, a natural occurrence in the course of duty, when you're one who expresses any outrage or any concern about the depth, the viciousness, the savagery, you are sidelined. You're seen as, what's the word? There's a word for it, a snitch. And you're soft. And the real world, in their view, is concerns death and mayhem and savagery. And you're sidelined. In fact, you're not even trusted to go on certain operations, since we know what the outcome might be. And anybody who has any ambition in a military organization in Jamaica or in the police force and wish to go up the ranks, you wouldn't want to be sidelined. So many of the people who are witnessing these things, they're tolerating it because they're saying it's a means to an end, and so they tolerate a lot of it. And I want to say to them, through this forum, that sometimes it's not what we say or do that makes things that much worse. It's the silence that puts things, that complicates things. So I hope from what I'm doing that many more, and I'm sure that there are many, where I speak to police officers who would want to rebel in some way against the system, but they can't because they feel imprisoned by the men around them and the system itself. It is a sad story.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Carol DaCosta. I'm an attorney at law. I'm going to be looking at the purposes and what we can expect from the Commission of Enquiry. And I will also look at, from a legal standpoint, and I will also look at the expectations of what we can reasonably expect from any investigation by the JCF into the issues. And then I will look briefly at the doctrine of command responsibility and also the ICC. So Paul mentioned that, do I need this? Yes, I do? Okay. Paul mentioned that the Commission of Enquiry that is slated to commence might be a whitewash. It might very well be. I want y'all to understand what is the Commission of Enquiry and what it is set to achieve. It may not do what we require it to do. So if you don't mind, I wrote this paper last night. All night I haven't slept. So I'd like to read it. If as I'm reading you hear me say anything that you'd like for me to explain, I will stop and elaborate. If not, we'll just continue. And if you understand it, let me know. If you don't, let me know and I'll further elaborate. So the purpose of a Commission of Enquiry is to examine, analyze, and report upon all the evidence with respect to the circumstances of the subject matter of the inquiry, pursuant to the terms of reference which provides the Commission's mandate. And we all know the terms of reference. We know them. I'll refer to only two in this. The commissioners must examine all the relevant evidence, and relevant evidence includes documents and witnesses, and the witnesses must be examined in chief and cross-examined, usually by counsel. The commissioners must thereafter make recommendations to the Governor General with respect to the evidence that was brought before them. The Commission of Enquiry is not for the purpose of trying a case. It's not trying a case, and no one is charged, or any institution. No person is charged. The purpose of the inquiry is to inform the public concerning the matters inquired into. The members of the public must be told about all the evidence being examined by the commissioners. So full knowledge and the completeness of the matters must be referred to the government, to the people. In the recommendations, the commissioners must refrain from expressing any conclusions of law regarding civil or criminal responsibility. So it's not like a coroner's inquest where they will say, such and such is liable, such and such is to be sued. That's not the purpose. A finding or conclusion stated by the commissioners will be considered by the public as a determination and may be prejudicial to the person named by the commissioners as being responsible for the deaths in the circumstances. Further, if no charge is laid and a name is mentioned by the commissioners, such a person may be found by the public to be responsible. And it's not fair to that person, because in all the circumstances, irrespective of what happens, everyone is entitled to due process. Oh, it goes to sleep. So if someone is named and the public says, John Stokes is responsible, his reputation is damaged forever. And what if no charges are laid, putting him before the criminal court? He will never get a chance to clear his name. So it's not fair for them to name any person as being responsible. And that's not their task. Their task is to look into all the evidence and then make recommendations to the Governor General. Now, the real objective of the Commission of Enquiry, therefore, is the restoration of public confidence and educating the public as to the causes of the subject of the inquiry, and as I said before, recommendations to improve the situation or prevent future occurrence, and not to recommend civil or criminal liability. So that when we understand that, what are the commissioners going to tell the government, going to tell the GG? How do we prevent this happening again? Do we need to tell anyone, you don't go into somebody's home and kill somebody in the back? Do we need to tell the police officers that their job is not to murder our citizens? Do we really need? And if we do we need an inquiry? Don't we have institutions? The Director of Public Prosecutions, shouldn't they be charging people for committing these offenses? I would dare say yes. This is annoying. I must tell you, my printer wouldn't print this morning, and as such, here I am. All right, I'll just touch it every now and again. Section 1, subsection J of the terms of reference states that it tells the commissioners what they need to do. So one of the things commissioners will be looking at is whether the rights of any person or persons were violated in any of the affected or related communities by either law enforcement officers or anyone else, and if so, whose rights were violated and the manner and extent of such violations, and by whom such violations were perpetrated. So the terms of reference is creating a mandate that is not the norm in public commissions, public inquiries. They're telling them, name somebody. It's going to be interesting to see if we get witnesses like Nadine and Marjorie, who will tell the commissioners what they saw, and Marjorie's daughter will come and say, I saw a police officer in blue take a gun, pull it out and shoot my uncle, my father. Will they ignore this evidence? Or will they see to it that the Governor General is told about this? Then the next question is, if the Governor General accepts the recommendation, accepts the name, will the DPP prefer charges? Will the DPP prefer charges? And then who is going to investigate? How long after 2 years? Investigate what? 4 years. Where are they going to find evidence? Who? Well, mind you, to successfully prosecute a criminal matter such as murder, you don't necessarily have to have ballistics and forensic evidence. You can go with viva voce, that is live voice evidence from eyewitnesses, and a jury can find somebody guilty based on that. So the question is, since 1J provides a mandate to the commissioners to name names, it would be interesting to see if we get the proper witnesses, that is to say, relevant witnesses, witnesses who will come and say, I saw a murder committed. Will the Commission name names. Having named names, will the GG then recommend to the DPP that those persons named be charged? And if the DPP says yes, we will charge, can they successfully mount a criminal prosecution with the relevant evidence? That's what we're looking at. Do you all understand?
Yeah.
It's pretty clear, right? So the Commission of Enquiry, it might look like a whitewash, but it's really constrained and limited to what is expected of it. It's not a trial. It's a fact-finding exercise. Now we want to look at investigations by police. How have the police reacted to this situation and similar situations? And this is my opinion. The security forces in Jamaica have no credibility as far as investigating themselves in cases of abuse of the rights of the people. Since the massacre of the people in Tivoli in 2010, no one has been charged with these abuses. And so why should we believe that anyone will be charged now? In this event, 76 or more people. You know, I'm old school. I like the paper. Were killed over operations by security forces over a 2-day period. Almost 4 years later, as I said before, no one has been charged for these deaths, and there is no report emanating from the DPP's office regarding any investigations into these deaths. I'm sorry. Can you get it back up? I don't know what I did.
You've gone too far down?
Yeah, too far down. I want to go up. You're not helping. Okay, yeah, not so far up.
No, it's funny that the crowd is in.
Not so far up.
You mean if you come down now?
Right here. This is good. This is good. Let's go up a little bit. Yeah, that's good. That's good. That's good. Don't touch it. Don't touch it. The creation of the Independent Commission of Investigations in the this has enhanced our ability as a nation to investigate and prosecute abuses by the police force. Well, the security forces. Question is though, is it too late to get them involved? I don't know why they haven't gotten involved before, but it may be too late for them to investigate. Now, Amnesty International's research on police killing in Jamaica found that effective investigations are hampered by a lack of independence in the ballistics and forensic services and the limited resources which often contribute to the absence of prosecution of these offenses. Now, there are 2 units within the JCF which are responsible for investigating alleged abuses by the police. These are the Bureau of Special Investigations and the Complaints Division. I won't even go into that. But they've tried to put things in place to look into the question of police abuse. But the question is, are these effective? And I dare say they're not. Otherwise, what has happened wouldn't have happened. I'm just going to come down. All right, I want to look at the concept, or what we call in law, the doctrine of command responsibility. And why we're looking at this is the Tivoli Committee is looking at charging not just the soldier who fired the shot, but the person who was hierarchically above him, who directed him to do what he did. And perhaps all the way up to the then Prime Minister. And really, after I've looked at the doctrine, you'll understand that that is, in theory, quite possible. And this is the bedrock of the International Criminal Court. It's taking its cue from the premise that in the field, the soldiers and the police are obliged to carry out the instructions of their commander, their superior. So if it goes that way, it should go the other way. if you can't resist my command to commit atrocities, then I should be responsible for commanding you to commit atrocities. And if not, if I didn't command you directly, then under the statute of the Rome Statute, my responsibility is to prevent you committing the offense or not stopping you. So let's look at it. The doctrine of command or superior responsibility is a form of responsibility for omission to act. A superior may be held criminally responsible where, despite his awareness of the crimes of his subordinates, he culpably fails to prevent or punish these crimes. The commission of one or more crimes by a subordinate is a prerequisite for the application of the doctrine. In addition, the following requirements have been identified as forming part of the doctrine. This is 1, a relationship of superior-subordinate, linking the accused and those who commit the underlying offense. I dare say that it's not limited to the immediate superior. It can go up the chain of command. The knowledge on the part of the superior that his subordinates have committed or taken a culpable part in the commission of a crime or about to do so. A failure on the part of the superior to take necessary and reasonable measures to prevent or to punish those crimes. This doctrine may apply in principle to military commanders, civilian officials, regardless of their nature, of their function, including heads of states or ministers or paramilitary leaders. The International Criminal Court draws a distinction between military and non-military superiors. The person to whom the doctrine is relevant must be superior, hierarchically, to those who have committed the offense, and the relationship may be de jure, that is recognized by law by everyone, or may be de facto. This is where it actually exists on the ground. Command responsibility could apply in theory to any person who is able to exercise effective control over one or more people. The requirement of effective control which must be met means that he must have had the material ability to prevent or punish the crimes of the subordinates. Mere influence or charisma is insufficient to meet the standard. In all cases, there must be an expectation of obedience to orders on the part of the superior and a parallel expectation of subjection to his authority on the part of those who are under his authority. The commander must be shown to have known, that is actual knowledge, or had reason to know information that he had and put him on notice that the offense was about to be committed of the underlying crimes. The ICC statute has added the mens rea is mental intention, of should have known for military or military-like commanders, whereby a commander might be liable where he might not have known of the crimes. He might not have known of it, but if he ought to have known of it, he'll be held liable. To be liable under the doctrine, the commander must have failed to prevent or punish the crimes committed by the subordinates, and a failure to fulfill both or either of these separate obligations could render a commander liable. Not every sort of failure would trigger his superior liability. To meet his obligations, a commander is required to adopt certain necessary and reasonable measures. So, the doctrine of superior or command responsibility could be defined as follows. A superior, whether de jure or de facto, may be held criminally responsible in relation to crimes committed by subordinates, where at the relevant time of the charges he was in a relationship of superior-subordinate with the perpetrators, knew or had reason to know that these crimes had been committed or were about to be committed, and despite that knowledge, willfully and culpably fail to prevent or punish these crimes. Now, subsection 1K of the terms of reference for this commission provides for the application of this command responsibility doctrine, understanding that in Jamaica criminal jurisprudence we really do not operate under this doctrine at all. It doesn't really operate in Jamaica's jurisprudence, but it's in the term of reference, and this is what it says. The chain of command in relation to the decisions concerning the operations by the security forces in Tivoli Gardens and related areas during May 2010, and the respective responsibilities of each person in that chain of command. 1L states that whether any dereliction of duty or unlawful conduct is attributable to any person or persons in that chain of command in connection with the decisions concerning or the execution of the operations by the security forces in Tivoli Gardens and related areas during... I keep forgetting. Right. And if so, to which person or persons and the nature and extent of such dereliction of duty or unlawful conduct. Does this mean that the commissioners have the mandate to make recommendations that certain commanders be charged? Isn't that at the very least interesting? Do you all think they have the chutzpah to make these recommendations? It'll be interesting to see. Of course, the command responsibility doctrine isn't really going to apply. It won't really fly in our courts of law. It will fly at the ICC, at The Hague, if we can get it there. So let me talk a little bit about the ICC. It is seated in The Hague, the Netherlands, and it's called the International Criminal Court. And this is the first permanent global court capable of trying individuals accused of genocide, crimes against humanity, not there, war crimes. So in order to access the ICC, we're going to have to make a strong case that what happened in Tivoli is crimes against humanity, and that we can name names of persons who should be prosecuted at the ICC. We all know that Jamaica is a signatory to the Rome Statute, but it needs to ratify it, which means Parliament needs to pass and enact municipal legislation saying, yes, we agree with the ICC, and yes, we want to be a part of it. Now, one of the things with the ICC that makes it pretty attractive is that the ICC's prosecutor can initiate investigations if it is proven, or if they are satisfied, that the respective state is unable or incompetent to carry out these investigations. So, and anyone can make this application to the prosecutor to have the investigation commence. I'll just leave it. So, I think it's a good start. The Commission of Enquiry is a good start. And what is important is who we can get as witnesses to come before the Commission of Enquiry to say what happened. As we have two ladies here, this is just the tip of the iceberg, I think. We say at the very least 70-something people died. They say 2,070 died. That means there are a whole host of other people that we haven't heard from. So it will be our task to get these people and hear their voices and make a record of what was experienced by them and ensure that these persons are heard by the commissioners. And then we will see, given the mandate of the terms of reference, whether the commissioners will make the appropriate and necessary recommendations. And then having done that, we will see where it goes from there. If the DPP takes no action, then it will be my recommendation to Mr. D'Aguilar that we do send a legal brief to the ICC and see if, notwithstanding maybe in the scheme of things, is not 20,000 people died, one person dying in these circumstances is just as atrocious as 20,000 people dying. So that is where we stand, and I leave you now.
I wanted to ask you, Mrs. DaCosta, if let's say the Tivoli Committee applies to the ICC, does the sovereign jurisdiction of the Jamaican government have any say in whether they will allow the ICC to, enter and investigate?
They have to consent.
Right. So the government, so the people.
The government must consent.
Exactly.
State government must consent, but they have to show that not only are they competent, but they're willing to prosecute. So simply applying for the stay of the ICC proceedings is insufficient. They can't ask to stay and then they take no action. So if they're prepared to proceed with the prosecution, then the ICC prosecutor has 1 year. He can defer proceeding with the prosecution.
But can they refuse to?
They can. Could you say?
To investigate and then not allow the ICC either? I mean, does the ICC have any powers to compel the Jamaican government to participate?
Well, the prosecutor has the power to send out warrants, send out subpoenas, to interview witnesses, to investigate. So if our government says, well, we want to take the matter in our own courts, we will deal with it, and then do nothing, then I can see the prosecutor saying, no, we are going to proceed since you are not, because you're making a mockery of the system.
And
so the prosecutor can proceed after a year if the government intervenes but does nothing.
As a lot of us believe now that the inquiry is just a farce and nothing will come out of it. And I personally don't believe these people should go back through all of what they've been through. You see the emotion that you see from these people? Do we want to see this again? I don't think so. I believe it is a whitewash for some political points. I believe it should go straight to the ICC.
But just so that you're prepared for the outcome, it might look like a whitewash, but one has to appreciate the purpose and function of the inquiry. It's not to try anybody. It's not to find anybody guilty. It's simply to investigate and look at what happened and satisfy the public as to what happened. I do believe, and the rules of procedure and evidence of the ICC allow for an interested party to submit a brief to the ICC's prosecutor and invite him or her to commence investigations into this matter. And once it is a signatory party and the state acquiesces or consents, then it would proceed. The thing is, the state of the offending party can apply to stay the proceedings of the ICC, and the prosecutor has 1 year. He can defer it.
All right, let me first thank Nadine and Marjorie for coming this evening and speaking. As you can see, it was a very emotional exercise for both of them. And they're not the only people in Tivoli Gardens who, when they recount what happened, they break down in tears because it's extremely difficult for them. And I myself was reduced to tears in the back there. And it's not the first time it's happening to me, because I've spoken to many people in Tivoli Gardens and the experiences are really heart-rending. I don't believe that there is any doubt that what was committed against the people in Tivoli Gardens is anything but crimes against humanity. And crimes against humanity is the targeting of a group of people, murder, torture, rape, disappearance. And in this particular case, the military used mortar to fire into a residential area, and that is a war crime. Mortar is usually used when you have armies facing each other in fixed position. You can't see where you're firing, you're just firing at the other side. And you cannot fire mortar into a residential area. You don't know who you're firing at. I'll tell you that the military massed in separate, and if you know the geography of that particular area, when you are in separate, you can't see what is happening on the ground in Tivoli Gardens. All you can see are buildings, high-rise buildings. And Marjorie is a victim of that, where a mortar just comes in, lands on her, injures her, and then other people were killed. There's one young man that I met, his foot was damaged. Many people were killed by mortar. And if you look at the film that I showed earlier, you see several of the buildings where the mortar dropped on the building and burnt it to pieces and destroyed those buildings. That is a crime. I mean, the head of the Jamaica Defense Force has to explain why mortar was used. Not only he has to explain it, but he, as the head of the Jamaica Defense Force, has to give an explanation. And that's a serious crime that was committed there. Let me just say that the terms of reference are now being discussed. The public defender has got into the debate, and I think he's trying to muddy the waters, because the public defender is saying that unless and until we have all the forensics and the ballistics, then we shouldn't have an inquiry. Well, if the ballistics and the forensics are almost ready, then I would say postpone until they are ready. But if they are, all the way down the road, then it's really not necessary, because, as Carol was saying, I don't think that we will ever be able to identify any individual policeman or soldier as being responsible for the crimes which were committed. And even if you were to link a weapon to a particular soldier or policeman, you will simply claim that he was attacked and he had to defend himself. So you need a different type of criteria for looking at the crimes which were committed in Tivoli Gardens. And that's why we have been saying that it cannot be resolved in our jurisprudence here in Jamaica. We don't recognize command responsibility law. That is not recognized here. It's individual responsibility. So that if the commander sends the soldier or policeman out into the field, it is the individual soldier or policeman who is responsible for what happens. And we all know about the difficulty of being able to hold any individual policeman or soldier responsible for any of these atrocities which have taken place for decades now. There has not been a conviction in a so-called shootout of any policeman or soldier for decades in Jamaica. It hasn't happened. And as Mirta correctly pointed out, we had one situation where the policeman was caught on videotape shooting a man on the ground, and yet still the director of public prosecution was unable to have that man convicted. So it just goes to show how convicted. Yeah, he was prosecuted but not convicted, and it was a disgrace. The performance of the DPP was an absolute disgrace. And I can tell you, because I want to develop the argument, but I'll jump over the map. In 2008, and this has to do with Bruce Golding, but I'll come back to it. In 2008, and this has to do with what Nadine was saying, where her son was killed in this building that you see on my thing, where what happened was that early morning raid on Tivoli. And what usually happens in inner city communities that, the young guys see the police coming and they run. And it's usually a big mistake, But sometimes they get away with it because maybe they might be able to flee. But once you run, you're setting yourself up. So they run and they go into this house and they are pursued by the soldiers and police, and they go in there and kill 5 of them. They shoot up the place. Helicopter comes and shoot into the roof of the building, etc. There was a coroner's inquest. The coroner's inquest decided that they didn't have enough evidence against 3 of those who were accused. So there was one soldier that they recommended that he be charged, and there was one policeman that they recommended that he be charged, and 2 of his, let us say, superiors who assisted him. And the DPP ruled in both cases that she was not going to charge. She was not going to charge a policeman, and she was not going to charge a soldier. And that was the end of the matter. So these 5 people were killed in the house, and the DPP decided that, look, there's not enough evidence, I can't prosecute them, and so on. But the coroners were quite clear that these people were murdered. So it shows you what we are up against. All right, my job was to speak about the civilian commanders, because I think Carol made a very good case in terms of making the point that we're talking about civilian and security forces commanders in terms of the ICC law of command responsibility. It's not just the military commanders who are culpable, but the civilian commanders. And looking at the situation in 2010, Bruce Golding is a chief civilian commander, and he has a lot to answer for in terms of what happened then. He had a relationship with Dudus, and at first he said that he was going to defend Dudus's constitutional rights, and then he made a 180-degree turn at some point and decided that he was going to sign the extradition warrant. Now, what forced him, or what caused him to make this 180-degree turn? And I believe that motive is important to look at in a situation like this. In some cases where you have a trial, and depending on the strength of the evidence, motive can play a part in terms of the prosecutor trying to prove the argument. Of course, motive alone is not sufficient to convict somebody, but let us say in the Vibes Cartel case where there's no body, but there is a motive as to why the man Lizard was killed. And the motive was that he was given a gun, and the gun went missing. So Vibes Cartel and his men decided that he had to pay the ultimate price for the gun having for losing the gun. So this is where motive, this is the role of motive. It is not totally conclusive, but it is important. And I believe in this particular case, motive is important in looking at the situation in Tivoli Gardens in 2010 and the role of Bruce Golding. Bruce Golding people believe that he was very tight with Dudus, but he wasn't. There had been tension between the 2 of them. And I think at the Commission of Enquiry, the Manat Commission of Enquiry, Bruce Golding said that he hadn't spoken to Dudus in 2007. And that is basically correct, because he said that the security forces had told him, Bruce, to let Dudus know that they were harboring some men from the Andem gang in Montego Bay, and Dudus sent back a message saying that we're not harboring anybody here. So what happened in 2008 was that the police went on an operation there, I guess, to catch these Andem gang members, and that is how come these 5 men were killed in the house. If you remember, it took quite a while before Bruce Golding came, and as I mentioned in the documentary there, for him to come into Tivoli to find out what happened. I remember him saying, yeah, I know what happened, but he didn't say anything more. So the relationship between him and Dudus deteriorated even further. Bruce Golding moved his office out of Tivoli Gardens and took it somewhere else in West Kingston. I don't know exactly where, to Fletcher's Land. So this was the genesis of him moving his office out. I would say that Bruce Golding took the decision at that point that Tivoli Gardens was expendable. And what transpired after trying to defend Dudus on a pro forma basis, because I don't think his heart was into it, but he, because of the circumstances of Tivoli, the way he was elected and the relationship of Siaga and so on, he had no choice but to stall the United States for as long as possible. The flip side, or the question that arises also, is what did the United States do to convince Bruce Golding that he had to sign the extradition warrant? Bruce Golding, history, is someone who said, look, I used to associate with gunmen, but I did nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong, there's nothing illegal about associating with gunmen. These people were defenders of the community. I'm not going to draw any conclusions from that, but this is the type of individual that we're talking about. So that the United States obviously had some information on him, and I believe that after saying that he would pay the ultimate political price, he changed his mind, and he decided that Tivoli Gardens and Dudus were expendable. Now, what also goes to the character, the political character of Bruce Golding, is that there were emissaries from the office of the Prime Minister in the form of Reverend Al Miller, who was having discussions with Dudus. He was having discussions with Dudus about his surrender. Harold Blair was also playing the role of an emissary, having discussions with Dudus. And I know that there's another woman, Hannah Barrington, who said that Dudus was in conversation with her about the possibility of turning himself into the British Embassy. So he realized that, his time was near, and I don't believe that he really thought that he could fight the Jamaica Defense Force and prevail. So he was prepared to surrender himself at some point. It was just a matter of when. Now, I also believe that in the adjoining areas of Tivoli Gardens, there were, let us say, gunmen who decided to exploit the situation for opportunistic reasons, such as the Darling Street police station and so on, that was burnt down on the eve of the so-called incursion. I've spoken to people who are telling me that Dudus was really trying to say, cool it, but he couldn't control everybody. And so what was happening now was that they were looking for a pretext. Because we have to remember, that the invasion of Tivoli Gardens, the public defender called it the siege, had been a plan that had been going. It had been planned months in advance before it actually took place. Months in advance. The police commissioner said on an interview with Emil Crooks of Impact that the planning had taken place 3 months in advance. Even the Jamaica Labour Party, a week before or several days before the actual incursion on the Sunday, had a meeting at Belmont Road with senior officers of the Jamaica Labour Party, and special protection was offered to the senior leaders and the MPs and the ministers and so on, because so they knew what was going to happen. Bruce Golding requested the surveillance plane, what people were incorrectly calling a drone. He had requested a surveillance plane from the United States so that he could see what was, he said, so that we could know what was happening on the ground. So the plan was there, Bruce Golding, the surveillance plane, the party knew, and everything else. All basically was required was the pretext, and the pretext was provided. Now, let me also say that the theory behind the assault on Tivoli Gardens is what you call a counterinsurgency plan. And you have a Major Wayne Robinson in the JDF who went to one of these elite military schools in the United States and who had written a master's thesis on eradicating organized criminal gangs in Jamaica. Can the lessons be learned from a sustained counterinsurgency operation? Now, a counterinsurgency operation against had discussions He's the Prime Minister, so he has effective control over the military. He's the MP for the area. He's a Minister of Defense, and he's also the head of the Defense Board. No, you know, he's not a trivial head of state like the Governor General or a ceremonial head of a state. He's an effective commander of the state and the military apparatus. You know, somebody was saying to me the other day that or Bruce Golding said in an interview, they said to him, well, when the whole thing went down, did you get any reports about what was happening on the ground? And he said, yes. The military gave him daily briefings about what was happening. And the question was asked, well, did you say or do anything? And he said, well, no, because I have no operational control over the military. But that's not true. That's not true, and I've heard military people say that, but that is not true. If you look at the Defense Act, and I was looking at it this morning, and I called my good friend Anika when I read it, and to make sure that I understood what I was reading, and it says very explicitly that the Prime Minister can direct the military in operational matters in order to defend the country, its security, and so on. That the Prime Minister does have that power. So Bruce Golding cannot claim that he had no power to direct the military because he was not the operational commander. That is absolutely not true. That is not a defense that he can use where international law is concerned and where command responsibility is concerned. He just can't use that. So I think that aspect of the matter is very important. Now, what also becomes a problem for Bruce Golding, and some of these ladies might know, they may not know it personally, but there are many people in Tivoli Gardens who, once the so-called incursion started, the public defender called it a siege, once the mortar started to be firing, once the soldiers and policemen went into the homes and were taking out young men and executing them one by one, people were calling Bruce Golding. People were calling his secretary, right? His secretary, Miss Sinclair, got the name, I know who she is, right? They were calling and they were saying, we are dying, they might kill we off inside here, etc., etc. Bruce Golding knows. Not only did he know what was happening, but members of his party and his cabinet called him. I understand that there's one female member of the cabinet that was hysterical when she realized what was happening, and she called. So he knows. He cannot say he did not know what was happening. He knew what was happening. The question is, having known what was happening, what did he do? And this is where the doctrine of command responsibility comes in. Not only must you be an effective commander, but you must have, and you must have known. And if you did know, what did you do? Well, as we said before, Bruce Golding said, well, I did nothing. I think Edward Siaga at one point. Yeah, make it quick.
Bruce Golding lock off him phone, and Siaga come on TV and start to call Bruce Golding, and I saw them stop fire the shot, and I saw come out and get a little food, because the people them was hungry, them Siaga cry on the TV and talk food, and I saw the killings cool down, and I saw come out and start get a little food, and Chuck come out with food, bread and juice and stuff like that, and I saw him start get some eat and come out our house and out in the yard. It was dangerous. Me I tell him lock off him phone. Lock off him phone, the people are dying. Lock off him phone.
Exactly true. That is what I heard. That after a while, the phone was turned off and they couldn't get through to him anymore. Now, I'm glad I mentioned Siaga, and I want to say something else about Siaga. Siaga went to the media and said something to the effect that he understood that Golding was trying to get the military to back off, and they refused. This was put to Colonel Rocky Meade, who was the let us call him the communications person. Every day there would be briefings for the press. Colonel Rocky Meade said that if they had got a legitimate request from the Prime Minister, they would have responded in a positive way to his request, because he's the head, essentially of the Jamaica Defense Force. That's what he said. So Bruce Golding is in a pickle as far as I'm concerned in terms of the role that he played from the very beginning to the very end, and I don't believe that he has any serious defense. And this individual, I think is one of the prime candidates to be extradited to the International Criminal Court to give an answer. Now, there is also I was going to talk about Dwight Nelson, but I'm not going to go in, because the same thing that applies to Bruce Golding applies to Dwight Nelson. But something is very important, and it comes back again to motive and planning, where Dwight Nelson, a couple days after the whole thing had started, I think it was May 24, I think April 1, there is a headline in the newspaper quoting Dwight Nelson, and it says, Tivoli Gardens, blueprint for attack on gangs. Tivoli Gardens, blueprint for attack on gangs. And it's in the article, it said that Mr. Nelson has vowed, and I'm quoting the Gleaner now, not Mr. Nelson, that the government will use a recent incursion into Tivoli Gardens by the security forces as a template to break the back of Jamaican gangs. It will use it as a template for breaking the back of Jamaican gangs. So if you believe that they just went in there for Dudus alone, they didn't go in there just for Dudus. I said before, it was a plan. Dudus was able to walk out of Tivoli Gardens. Dudus ended up in a government-owned house in St. Anne. Dudus, I'm sure he was in contact with Al Miller and so on. Dudus was well protected. So don't believe this fantasy about they're going in there to serve a warrant on Dudus. It's absolutely not true. As Dwight Nelson is saying, this was a template to break the back of Jamaican gangs. And then there is a direct quote from Dwight Nelson. It says, Tivoli is not all about finding coke. Tivoli is about the start of this gang dismantling process. So we are going into all all the communities where criminality and criminal empires exist. That is what Dwight Nelson said. You know, so don't believe that it was about doodles. It was a plan, it was there, they were expendable, and they had made a decision. And I think the motive was that perhaps they had some evidence on Golding, and Golding had to extricate himself from it. And so therefore he started, you know, become a law and order prime minister and so on, to save him skin, so that, you know, people wouldn't press for his resignation and so on. Even the state of emergency, was it really totally necessary? Because when you come back again and you look what was happening on the ground, the violence wasn't taking place in Tivoli Gardens. The violence was taking place in Denham Town and Hannah Town and around, and Fletcher's Land. It wasn't taking, there was no violence in Tivoli Gardens. The only thing that happened in Tivoli Gardens was that they had put up some barricades to the, you know, to the entrances. But barricades happen all over West Kingston, not only in Tivoli Gardens. And the people were saying in the media, when you go back to the issue of the Gleaner in that month, people were saying, look, we have had experiences with the security forces before. They have come in here, they have brutalized us, they have killed our people, and so that we have to protect ourselves. And the only way we can protect ourselves is setting up these barricades. That was what those barricades were all about. And then there is now the question of the surveillance plane. The surveillance plane, and I've seen the footage of it, and people should go online and look at the footage. The surveillance plane shows that when they were going into Tivoli Gardens, for example, all they needed was a front-end loader, and the front-end loader just come and pick up the fridge, whatever, all the fearsome explosives that were supposed to be there. It didn't even look to me, well, you can't see, I will honestly say, you can't see, you know, if somebody fired a shot at the front-end loader. But the front-end loader, the man who was driving, he didn't seem to be afraid for his life. He just simply went in there, took up the stuff, and moved it out of the way. So people are making all this big thing about the barricades and so on. The barricades were quite harmless. You know, it posed no threat to the state. And this is what the Gleaner and all these other news media were saying, boy, the state is under siege, the state is being attacked, etc. Tivoli Gardens, if what was happening in West Kingston and Tivoli Gardens was a threat to the state, then I wonder what they would say if simultaneously some things were happening in Montego Bay and St. Thomas and so on and so forth. What would they have said? That is, you know, it really doesn't wash. So I think that, you know, the point has been made. Crimes against humanity were committed in Tivoli Gardens. We know who were the commanders. They need to be sent to the International Criminal Court. I just want to say a couple of things about the International Criminal Court so people can quite understand. In 2001, Jamaica signed what you call the Rome Statute that set up the International Criminal Court, but we didn't ratify it. Okay, and because we didn't ratify it, the International Criminal Court cannot come in here and take over any matter if they believe that we are not doing what we supposed to do. If we had signed it, they would be able to do it. You know, if you had ratified it rather, they would be able to come into the country and say, well, look, you had a Commission of Enquiry, and clearly this was not a serious Commission of Enquiry, so we are now going to take jurisdiction over the matter, and you are compelled to cooperate with us. They can't do that because we didn't ratify it. However, the government, even though it didn't ratify the statute, can refer the matter to the International Criminal Court, can refer a matter to the International Criminal Court. And that is where we are trying to put pressure on the government. And we believe that if we can explain to people what really happened in Tivoli Gardens, what crimes against humanity are, the dysfunction and the deficiencies in our jurisprudence, why it is impossible to try anybody here for command responsibility crimes. And if the government is acting in good faith that it wants to resolve this matter in Tivoli Gardens, then it can choose to send the matter to the International Criminal Court. That is the kind of political and moral pressure that we are trying to put on the government to expose them. And we have done enough. And I think the terms of reference that Carl was referring to is as a result of the pressure that we have been putting on the hints of investigating command responsibility and so on. But it's too broad. The terms of reference are much too broad. All you really needed to do was two basic things. One, were crimes against humanity committed in Tivoli Gardens. Give all the people there the opportunity to come and explain to the nation what happened. And I'm sure, as riveting as their testimony was, you will find even more riveting testimony coming forward that will shock the nation in terms of the brutality which took place there. There is no doubt that crimes against humanity were committed. That is one. The second thing is command responsibility, and I don't think that is so difficult for people to understand that. And I believe the evidence is overwhelming against Golding, Nelson, the police commissioner, and the head of the Jamaica Defense Force. We just need to leave it there, right? Those are the two things, and then the government needs to give an undertaking that they will refer the matter to the International Criminal Court. That is all that is really required under the circumstances. And I think that, if we can get the government to go in that direction, then I think that there is a possibility of justice for the people in Tivoli Gardens. If it doesn't go to the International Criminal Court, then, as Dwight Nelson is saying, that Tivoli was just a template, and there will be more massacres, and perhaps the next time, instead of 200 people, and I do believe that more than 200 people were killed. The next time it might be 4, it may be 6, it may be 1,000, and I believe that the posture of this particular government is that Tivoli is just an inconvenience. They just really want to get rid of it. Because, you see, they don't want to rock the boat of the security forces. And if you don't want to rock the boat of the security forces, then there's no point in rocking Bruce Golding and Dwight Nelson's boat either, because they connect. So you find that the terms of reference are so diffuse and all over the map that, as Carl was saying, they could spend 3/4 of the time trying to find out who built up barricades, instead of looking at command responsibility. And at the end of the day, the whole thing becomes a whitewash. So that is where we are. And I just want to say one final thing, because I feel the pain of these people, and I believe that the most disgraceful thing about these terms of reference is the compensation that is due to the people in Tivoli Gardens. And that should be a separate inquiry. That should be a separate inquiry, because if you look at the thing about the terms of reference, all it's going to do is to try and score political points with the Jamaica Labour Party, because I think this PNP government believes, or probably has information, that some of the $90 million that was supposedly given out in Tivoli Gardens, some of it was siphoned off by political people from the Jamaica Labour Party. I'm not going to call any names, but I believe that they realize that some of that was done, and it probably was done. Some of my sources tell me about money being given out in envelopes and so on, that not all of the money went through the Ministry of Labour and Social Security. So I believe that they know something and they want to score political points. But you need a special inquiry to find out about the damages, not only to their property, the allegations of money being stolen, soldiers camping out in their houses without any kind of compensation, damaging their property, but also the fact that there are many people there who are injured, right? Injured. Like, hold on there. Injured like this lady here, right, who has received no money at all for her injury. And she's a working woman. She's a working woman and she can't work anymore. So I believe that it is fair that you have, that this matter should be dealt with separately, right? And it's a disgrace that you have a man like Desmond McKenzie and Holness, who's now championing himself as concerned about the human rights of people in Tivoli Gardens, that they couldn't in the parliament raise a motion for this matter to be discussed separately from anything else, and that immediate compensation be given to these people to take care of the suffering. I think it's a disgrace to these two particular individuals, right? That they could have done that. It's the biggest disrespect. And we know that they are insincere. They don't want an inquiry. What they want is a cas between them and the PNP. And that's it.
Yes, Mr. Lloyd. As they were speaking about the soldiers taking over the residence, it's when them come through our house and then one of the soldiers mash up what him for mash up and do him for do. When you look on the house, you look straight out the door. The soldier sit down outside and say, no, him no know what come over him, but him know him do it and him heart can't give him and tell him, say, him give him back the money and say, go and buy back the window and put it in. Because you can't live like that. I don't know him name, I never ask him name or nothing. Him just call me and say, him a one of them will come through our house and lick out and fire shot down by building 5 and wherever and say them see movement, man in a black and white, and move and start fire shot. Them lick out the whole entire board, 48 plane a window, both upstairs and downstairs, and he called me back one day and said, come here. Come back and give you back the money to buy back the glass then and put it in. So I suck up our window going if it wouldn't go in by now.
You know, I just said two more cruel things. You know, we had a protest outside Garden House a year or so ago. And while we were out there, it was Tivoli plus something else that we were protesting about. And a little girl was coming from school, St. George's Primary, I think it was St. George's Primary. And she says, want a daughter. And, you know, we told her, you know, Tivoli. And she said, oh, the police, them wicked. And we said, what happened? She said they came into our house and her brother was there. And they wanted proof that the brother really lived there. And the mother produced documents, pictures, whatever it is, to prove that, you know, this little boy lived in the house. And she said, them still shoot my brother. And them shoot him and them kill him. You know, we didn't call her over. She was just passing. And, you know, and that is what she did. I mean, you know, so you can imagine how traumatized. I've heard stories like there was one woman, she had 2 sons. And the police put the 2 of them to lie down on the floor and say, mother, which one of them will we kill? All right? And of course, she wouldn't, you know, of course, as a mother, she's not going to tell you, well, you kill this one. And say, all right, we make the decision for you. And they went ahead and killed one of them. You know, it is those kind of stories, man, when you hear them, you know, make your heart bleed. You know, and this is a wicked act. And all I can say is that we must not rest until those who are responsible for the brutality which took place there are held and brought before somebody, some international body where they can be held accountable for the crimes which were committed.
Good evening. I just want to give a little 2 cents there. I can't explain, can't express, I never come here for hear. I come to hear, but I never expected the stuff that I heard.